My name is Chukes. I'm standing next to my kiln. My kiln is named after my high school art teacher, Mr. Shannon. Mr. Shannon's no longer here, but I stay in touch with his wife. She lives in Australia. But in honor of him and what I learned, he's the greatest art teacher I ever had, first of all. The greatest of any art teacher other than my mother. He's the greatest. So in honor of Mr. Shannon, I named my kiln after him. It's just a regular gas kiln. Nothing fancy, but it serves its purpose very well. I have a title for the piece. It's called "What the Fuck Are You Looking At?" During my schooling, a lot of my instructors said that you can't create a sculpture using the process I created or that I was trying to use. So I really couldn't do it while I was in school, but when I got home, it was like one of the first things that I did was do what was in my head. When I say, "What the fuck are you looking at?" it's not just her saying that. It's a sculpture saying that to you, because it's a conversation saying that you really don't know what I'm really about. So when you look at me, what the fuck are you looking at? I consider this a sculpture as well. It's my sound system, and I'm extremely influenced by music because it helps me create. So when I'm listening to music, I'm listening to these incredible, eclectic musicians who use their instruments as a form of art. And so I just try to tap into what they're doing and recreate the sound that they make and put that sound into my art, so you can see now, you can visualize what their sound looks like in my art. This system has been evolving since I was a teenager, and it didn't look anything like this, believe me, it didn't. I just bought some new cables, they should be coming in tomorrow, so I'm always adding to it. But, it's my life source. I mean, when I'm on downtime, I come in here and I just, put on vinyl. And I'm a vinyl junkie. This system's set up for vinyl. I do have a CD player, but my system is set up for vinyl. Because for me, that's where the real music comes. Well, these are my Blue Circle preamps. Each one of these amps, the reason there's two of them, this amp is totally to power this speaker, and this amp is totally to power this speaker right here. Usually you see just one amplifier that powers both speakers, but in order to get the most out of my system, I wanted a dual amplifier setup, and so this is a hybrid amplifier, part solid state with a tube in it, because I'm a tube sound. I want that softness, I want the detail. I'm not looking for all that loud wattage or anything like that. I think these amps only have 75 watts, combined between the two of them. And for people that think you need 5,000 watts of power, they have no idea what real music is about. You can get an amp that has 2 to 3 watts of power, but if it's set up right, you hear the most beautiful music that you probably never heard in your entire life. So, and it's centered around my preamp, which is also a tube preamp. For me, I get a better, softer, more detailed sound out of tubes. Even my CD player, which I just purchased, is a tube CD player, analog, because I wanted my CD player not to sound so harsh. I wanted it to sound analog like my vinyl. I'm just an analog junkie. Yeah, the majority of the work that you see in the living room here is part of a show I started, an exhibit I started in 2016 titled Identity Theft. And so many of these pieces in here, probably 80 to 90% of the pieces in the living room, are part of that exhibit. It's been a traveling exhibit, exhibited quite a few times in the 4 years that I created this work. I currently have a book out that's about to be published titled Identity Theft, as well as a catalog. But particular pieces I'll kind of go through a few of them. This piece is titled the Statute of Limitations, based on the Statue of Liberty, which was supposed to be of a black woman who was enslaved, but America claimed that they no longer wanted to deal with slavery, so the whole dynamics of the statue was supposedly changed around to fit the needs of a gift that came from France, of a sculptor who, by the way, was a staunch abolitionist, but they never gave him credit for creating the sculpture of the black enslaved people. They just changed the whole thing around, which they're known for that, because they don't want to own up to what they've done to us. So I created the piece, it's Statue of Limitation, giving her the fist, and it's a message saying to the black people that within the Statue of Limitations, it's not too late to claim your blackness, and you better claim it now before it's stripped away from you. So there's a saying on the book right here. It says, your history is only as good as the truth. This piece here is titled Target Practice. I made it 2018, and it's the simplicity of the piece. Of course, there's a pregnant woman, but the target represents you're not even born yet, and you're already a target. That's how sadistic our system is. They don't even let the child come out of the womb before they've already targeted the mother and the family for whatever reason they're going to target them for. So I wanted to emphasize the pollution of racism and bigotry in this woman. And I gave her face. A lot of people ask me, why did I leave her face white? Because it doesn't matter what color you are, you're still being targeted, white or black. If you're white, you're being targeted against us. If you're black, you're being targeted because you're black. Targeting goes both ways. This piece is titled Adam and Eve. My version of Adam and Eve, as a black man, I've always seen Adam and Eve depicted as European or white. And if you understand history and you understand the archaeological aspect of history, you'll know that if you do your research, that the first human being obviously came from the continent of Africa, somewhere in the region of Ethiopia. So I don't know how Adam and Eve can be depicted as a white or a European. In my eyes, that's just another propaganda that Americanized Adam and Eve to let you know that they have taken the history out of Africa and brought it over to Europe or brought it over to white America. So I'm just bringing it back by letting you know who my Adam and Eve are. This piece is titled Unarmed. It was one of the first pieces I did in the identity theft exhibit, and it actually represents the brutality and killing of young black males and the racist attitude of white supremacists who think it's okay to annihilate these young black males and get away with it. So with the piece being as it is, you see a black male face, but only half of the face, because when we're viewed, we're not viewed as a whole human being. You see how strong this young black male is, and you see he is at the beginning of his understanding of who he is, and he's cut down at the beginning, at his strongest point. The arms are crossed defiantly with no weapons, none whatsoever, thus unarmed. But there are 2 drips of blood down here that represent him being shot dead in the prime of his life by, once again, the white supremacists of the arms crossed. The arms are crossed in defiance, but they're also crossed in a way that symbolizes the stars and bars and the Confederate flag of racism and brutality that has been set upon black people for centuries. So I wanted to depict all of that in this piece, showing my understanding of senseless racism and how it's geared toward our young black youth, and how it's always been geared towards our young black youth. And you have to research history as to understand, why are these young black youth being targeted? And if you understand why that is, you get a huge spectrum of why racism is so prevalent in America and why they continue killing black males. This piece is titled A Message of Hope. I created it as a result of a dream I had during a feverish creative process of creating the identity theft work. And so it's one of the paintings that I did right before I slipped off to sleep. This vision came to my head because I was creating this work in identity theft that is, deals with such brutality and such evilness and hatred. And I think this message was telling me something. Hey, you got to have hope. Show some beauty, show some hope in this whole process. And right when I slipped off to sleep, like I said, this face just came right out to me, and then I saw it and I fell asleep. Now, my wife bought me some canvas, and I stretched these canvases, and I had all these blank canvases, 8 of them, that represent the day of my birthday, and nothing was on them. So the next morning, I came out and I painted this painting, and I titled it, it just came to me. After I painted it, the name came. This is A Message of Hope. This is my wife, who she posed for me. This is one of the very few sculptures that I've created of anybody posing for me. My wife she's a librarian, and she's about going to kill me that you're filming this, but she's my heart and soul. She's just the most beautiful person that I've ever met. If she wasn't, I wouldn't have married her. She keeps me balanced. She tells me the truth. She makes me wash dishes and vacuum, keep me grounded. This piece is, it's her, it's the essence of who she is. I have a title for it. It's called Soulmate, and that's exactly who she is. She's my soulmate, and there she is in the flesh. My wife is a librarian. She's full of knowledge. She's the smartest woman I know, and she gives that knowledge to me. So I just honored her by creating this piece titled Soulmate. These pieces here, again, are part of the Identity Theft collection. These are Benin pieces from Nigeria, Africa. This is the king and the queen, the Benin king and queen of Africa. And in tracing my roots and tracing the last name of Chukes, I've found out that my name is Nigerian, and it means Most High, Man of God. It's like the Uru bird that flies around and sees everything. So I'm one of the few African Americans that have been able to retain and trace my last name. A lot of our names have been taken away, and we'll never know. A lot of black people will never know the origins of their true and original last name. So when I trace my history and start finding about the true history of myself, I decided I was gonna incorporate those ideals into the identity theft work. And so I created the Benin king and queen, and I put mirrors on their faces, so when you walk in and you see them, you will see yourself as who you truly are. And it doesn't matter what color you are, because all human life comes from Africa. So this piece is titled Africans Only. So when you look at yourself, you cannot deny, I don't care what color you are, what race you are, you came from the continent of Africa. And in order for us to realize that and understand the importance of that and get over this nonsense of racism and bigotry, We got to understand where we first come from. And so when you look at this, you see yourself as an African. So I put it on here, and I've had some white folks say, it says African only. Does that mean I can't look at it? Well, that obviously tells me you know nothing about where you truly come from. Everyone can look at it. This piece is titled Subliminal Man. Once again, it's part of my identity theft exhibit. It's like the 5th or 6th piece I did. I believe I did it. The date is 2016. And here you have a black male, young black male, bound down with these straps all over his face and body. And he looks as if he's tied down and in some type of bondage. His head is knelt down in a subservient mode, as if he has given up. But if you really look at these straps, I'm going to turn this piece around so you can see the hands. If you look at these straps, you look real closely, you'll see that these straps are not tied onto the body. They're loosely draped across the sculpture, which is a symbolization of the subliminal message. All he has to do is take his hands from bondage that look like bondage and raise them up, and the straps will fall off. That's why I titled it Subliminal Man, because the subliminal message has been so strong for centuries, making the black male and female believe that they are in some type of bondage when they're really not. The message has been so strong that they've believed in it, they've bought into it, and they don't think that they can get out. And all you have to do is know who you are, understand who you are, what you're about. And once you start to realize the truth of who you are, raise your motherfucking hands up and get out of that goddamn subliminal bondage that society wants to keep us in. We must start learning about ourselves. This is all revealing for me, learning about who I am, what I'm about, and not being afraid to share it with people and tell the truth. And that's what this work is about. It tells the truth. These were my books, some of my books in college I was required to read. The piece is titled The Book of Knowledge. And a lot of these books have excerpts from so-called experts on the black experience. And as I would read through many of the passages of the books, I would scratch my head and say, where in the hell did they get this information from? And then when I would look in the table of contents or look at who published the book, it hit me, and I realized that none of these books were published by black authors or black publishing companies. They were all published by white publishing companies who had no idea of who we are as black people. They just had whatever notion that they felt that they could write down in these books and provide people with a false history of who we are. So if you look at the books, there's excerpts from different passages and different parts of the book. I won't go into it because you'd have to come and really see this book to see that I've put other excerpts in here that kind of make you look and think about what it is you're reading and the truth that you're reading, because it's not really the truth. It just isn't. And that's our problem with the schools now. They want to change our history around, and the history they want to change around is not from our voice. It's from their voice. There was a big fuss about some of the schools in Texas where they were writing history books saying that black people wanted to be enslaved and that they worked in conjunction, and it was a mutual agreement between the slave owner and the slave master. But if they really want to break it down, they need to talk to you about how they initialized slavery. And they had a person called the slave maker. And what he would do is, if there was a disruption and some of the black folks who didn't know why they were being enslaved, they would grab a pregnant woman, tie her up in front of all the slaves and rip her body down the middle, and her guts would spill out and her baby would spill out. Now, they did this in America because they wanted to do something that was so strong to these Africans, to let them know that you are no longer in Africa, you don't know where you're at, and we have taken control of you, and we can do to you whatever we want to, and you have to do what we tell you to do, otherwise you're going to suffer that. But they don't teach you that in school. They teach you these lies, saying that we got along with our slave captors. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Stop lying to people and tell the fucking truth. You lying bastards. Stop lying. Tell the truth. If you want people to change, you have to tell the truth. Part of my record collection. I've been collecting albums since I was 12, 13 years old. This is how much music means to me. I have a little bit of everything in here. Starting from jazz to soul to classical to black composers, classical composers, to gospel, to Christmas music, to protest music, to comedy, to big band jazz, to musical soundtracks, to country, to folk music, to swing, easy listening, world music. I have a little bit of everything in here. This is my latest piece. It's in the process of drawing. I just finished it a few days ago. It took me 3 days to create this piece. The piece is titled Silent Protest. Piece is titled Sacred Flower. One of the pieces I just finished. Part of my isolation as the coronavirus, due to the coronavirus. I actually did a video in my studio. It's on YouTube. It's titled Hands of Clay. So if you go to YouTube and type in Hands of Clay, you will see the process of me creating this piece in the raw. It doesn't have any color, doesn't have the video has no sound. I just wanted to capture the raw process of me creating. So it's just something with my limited skills as a videographer, I decided to put up my camera and shoot my process. So the video is about a half an hour, and it's of the piece Sacred Flower. And Sacred Flower is, as you can see right here, she's kind of growing up out of the concrete, out of man's destruction of the world. But as we destruct things and destroy things, beauty always grows up out of cracks. And I wanted to symbolize my vision of beauty through the clay. And I think I've done that with this piece that I've titled Sacred Flower. Another piece I've done in the process of being isolated due to the coronavirus in my studio. This piece is titled Protector of the Next Generation. A lot of people think that, well, I've gotten a lot of comments since I posted this image. It's on Instagram and it's also on my Facebook page.
And the comments that I've gotten where this is a great representation of mother and child. And I want people to know that this is not mother and child. This is father and child. I guess the face to some people looks androgynous, which is okay with me, and it doesn't bother me that you think that this is a female. But look a little closer. Look at the masculine figure of the male's face. We, once again, have been so accustomed to the woman being the nurturer, but I'm a male and I'm a father. And this is the way I love my daughter. This is the way I protected my daughter. This is how I feel about the next generation. This is something that society and the media they never portray the black male in a loving position such as this right here. And it's important that I portray that because I want black males to know that I know we love our children. We understand the importance of our next generation. And we can't wait for the media, even though this is being taped and is part of the media. But I'm using my voice as a platform to let these black males know that we have to love our children and that we are loving our children. And we don't need anyone else to give us credit for it, but I want to give us credit by creating this piece to let them know the importance of black males in their children and the next generation's lives. And that these hands are saying, the reason I gave them these veins, you can tell these hands have seen something and that there's power in these hands. And what the hands are saying is, there is no way in hell that you are going to pry this child from my hands and ruin them like you have done generations of so many other young black children. And so this man is holding on to his child with dear life. But you see the child's face. There's no distress. The child is not crying. The child looks peaceful and comfortable because of the love that his father has given him. So as males, we have to be the protector of the next generation.